All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 8th, 2024 School Committee meeting. We apologize for the late start. The school committee is just returning from executive session. All members are present with the exception of Madison Benoit. And in lieu of the Pledge of Allegiance, we have a special treat tonight. And Ms. Prindeville, I believe you're here to get us started.
Hi, I'm Samantha. I'm the chorus and music teacher over at Wilmington Middle School. And so we have a couple things for you tonight. 3 students are going to perform the national anthem: Allison Hall, Emily Hall, and Olivia Saragosa.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glares, the birds bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Let's see. Next, before we get to our middle school representatives report, there's been a town election since the last time the committee met, and as a result of that, we have a new member, Nicholas Golden, and welcome to your first school committee meeting, and we look forward to working with you for the next 3 years.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
That brings us to item 4, which is our middle school student representatives, Summer Alaperta and Elizabeth Gray.
Thank you. The end of the school year is rapidly approaching. For us 8th graders, it is bittersweet. It's an exciting time for us to be in middle school, but it's also the end of an era. MCAS. We've completed MCAS for ELA, and we only have 1 session left for math. Coming up, Science and Technology MCAS, and the first Social Studies Civics test to be taken by Wilmington 8th graders. Wish us luck. Performing Arts. This week kicks off what has been an incredible year in performing arts. Next week, students will again attend the Great East Music Festival. This is a wonderful opportunity for our band, chorus, and orchestra students to perform and receive professional feedback. After, they will celebrate their success with a fun-filled day at Six Flags. The band held their end-of-the-year performance last night, Tuesday, May 7th. It was a huge success. Chorus will have their performance on the 14th and orchestra on the 9th.
Grade 8 ELA field trip. On May 22nd, 8th grade WMS students will have their opportunity to visit the Auschwitz exhibit in Boston to support their studies on literature from the Holocaust. At this exhibit, students will be able to view over 700 artifacts from the Auschwitz camp, such as victims' belongings, physical structures from the camp, documents, and audiovisual recordings, compiled by the Auschwitz-Birkenau State Museum, the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, and Yad Vashem, the World Holocaust Remembrance Center. These artifacts are on display to help visitors understand the terrible consequences of Auschwitz and how it was able to come into existence. It is the first time these artifacts have been on exhibit in Boston, and being able to see them in person is a privilege teachers are thrilled to offer to their students. The exhibition has been developed not only with profound respect for the victims, but also for its visitors. Care has been taken to ensure that there are no gratuitous depictions of violence. Every effort has been made to consider this story's emotional impact on visitors so that they can safely explore this history, seek to understand it better, and make a meaning for themselves.
World Culture Club. The Wilmington Middle School World Culture Club celebrated all things Greek at their last meeting as a prequel to Orthodox Greek Easter, which was Sunday, May 5th. It was a nice tie-in to the ancient Greek curriculum that 7th grade students were currently wrapping up. The group talked about traditional food we can easily find, like Greek yogurt and honey, as well as specialty items like baklava. Italian field trip. On June 5th, students in Mr. Stefano's Italian classes will be attending a trip to the North End for some of Italy's finest cuisine. It will be followed by a walking tour of the North End.
End of year. We are looking forward to ending our middle school experience with some old and new traditions. On June 11th, we will be celebrating our year with the backyard dance party here at the middle school from 6 to 9 p.m. Traditionally, 8th graders have celebrated this event with great enthusiasm, and it has positively marked the end of our time here. We are excited to bring this tradition back again. On June 13th, we will take part in the 3rd annual Moving On ceremony. This will take place at the Town Common at 6:30, and we look forward to officially moving on to our high school years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Takes us to item 5, sticking with the middle school. And Ms. Prindeville, would you like to take the stage again?
Okay, so this group is called the Wilmingtones. I started this group back with Ms. Lerner in 2016 when we first came to Wilmington, and this group encompasses all sorts of genres of music, and this group is open to anybody who wants to sing choral music but may not be able to fit it into their schedule during the day, or happens to just love singing so much that they want to do it after school as well. So we're going to perform a song called The Chain by Ingrid Michaelson, and this is also going to feature Emily Hall on the cello. So. You want some water? No, you're good. Okay. Do you want to sing?
Sorry, you're on second alto.
I mean, she was in show choir, so good. Can you see from here? No, you're okay.
Da
embarrassed to introduce themselves, so I'm going to introduce them for you. This is Callie, Olivia, Katie, Angie, Charlotte, Avery, Sahana, and Taylor. We also have a couple more members, but they weren't able to join us tonight. So, thank you. And Emily, of course. Yes, sorry, I introduced you before, but yes. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was-
Good job.
Have a lot of vocal harmony at the school committee meeting tonight. All right. Item 6 is just a brief discussion about our school committee reorganization, which will be happening at the next meeting on May 22nd. There's some informational information. There's a good phrase. I'm a wizard with words. There's information in the packet about some of the roles themselves and what they entail. And I wanted to talk just briefly about the process, and then also talk a little bit about the subcommittees, so that just everyone is aware of kind of what the work of the subcommittees is before we figure out who's going to be fulfilling those roles and serving on those subcommittees at the next meeting. So briefly, and this is covered in the policy that is in your packet, although clearly already there's work for the policy subcommittee because the policy is not entirely accurate, especially this clerk language that I don't know when the last time we actually used that for our secretary. But simply speaking, that when it comes time to reorganize on the meeting on May 22nd, we take open nominations for the 3 officer positions for chair and vice chair and secretary in that order. So anyone can nominate a candidate for, we begin with the chair, and there's no second necessary, so this is not a motion, but just a nomination. No second is necessary. Once all nominations have been made, then there is a roll call vote on that issue, and if someone does not immediately win that, then I guess we have to nominate again and talk about it some more. Right, then we turn to rock, paper, scissors in order to figure that out. And then immediately the newly elected chair takes over presiding over the meeting, and the same process happens again with the vice chair and then the secretary, with open nominations, again not requiring a second, and then a roll call vote until we have the 3 officer positions filled. And after that, we then proceed to reorganize ourselves into our subcommittees. So that is the process that we will follow at the next meeting when we come to the committee reorganization. So I wanted to briefly go through the different committees here and have the people on them. And this is, of course, mostly for the benefit of Nick as our newest member, who hasn't served on any of these committees before, to get a sense of what they are, what they do, and what kind of time commitment is involved. But it's also useful for the rest of us to hear about the committees we're not on, because we also might be shifting around some, as I mentioned, that Nick doesn't have to immediately slide into the committee spots vacated by MJ Burns. So some of us might be also shuffling around some. So I want to just kind of run through the different committees. This is also in the packet. But let's begin with the policy subcommittee, and maybe some current members of the policy subcommittee can talk a little bit about what that work entails.
Sure. Is that okay? We review policies in order. We try and get through as many as we can. Each month we meet once a month, Thursday morning this year, around 9 a.m. And I assign policies to the members, and they have about 4 weeks to review them all. They compare them against the MASC handbook mostly, and we go in order. Other times policies come to us that are in need of revision, and so they might be out of that particular order. We've made some really good progress this year. We were really we were moving along really well pre-COVID, and then sort of things got kind of stuck, and we're back into that. So this year has been really productive, and we're moving through pretty quickly. So there's a bit of work to do outside. Doesn't take a ton of time though. No. Then we go through it there. If it's pretty seamless and it's just some updates, then it goes through as a first read, which you'll see. We do some of that here. You've seen it. No one has any real questions about it. It goes to the second read. Those that are a little bit more complicated can kind of be held up, or we might assign it to other people who might not be in the meeting at the time.
Cool.
Is that good?
That's right.
Okay.
I think sounds good. And sometimes one of the main reasons that we may need to address a policy outside of the normal review order is because, for example, like a law changes. Some law gets passed, a court decision comes down, and we need to respond to it. And so in those cases, we often have counsel that is also assisting us with revising policies if it's to comply with some legal requirement. And the current members, I should also mention, of the policy subcommittee are Dr. Bryson and Mr. Fennelly and Ms. Burns. So we do have a vacancy on the policy subcommittee at the moment. Next is the sick bank subcommittee, currently occupied by Ms. Burns and Dr. Mercaldi. Can you talk a little bit about
Sure.
the intense work of the sick bank subcommittee?
Yeah. So it's really how can I say this? Certain if there's like teachers that have exhausted all their sick time, all the teachers, they pool in extra sick days into something called a sick bank, right? And what we have to do is with the Teachers Association approve use of that sick bank if someone requests it or not. So if they need a certain amount of days. We also work with Andrea too in HR on that as well. It's not a heavy lift, but it comes up periodically, and some cases are more complicated than others, to be honest. So some require a little bit more debate, but I think overall it's there to kind of help people, like help some of the teachers that kind of fall into some bad luck and have some serious health issues and everything like that.
Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you. We, at the legislature, they do the same. So
Okay.
I'm a little bit familiar with.
Sure.
All right, the next on the list is the Superintendent Evaluation Subcommittee, currently populated by Mr. Samaha, Dr. Bryson, and me. And that is infrequently called into service, but once a year, when it's time to do the superintendent evaluation, the subcommittee meets to pull together all the individual evaluations to create the one subcommittee, rather the one full committee evaluation of Dr. Brand's performance for the year. So we usually, I think we've been able to do it in just one meeting recently, but it's been, a couple of hours. So I think it's taken us 2 to 3 hours to pull it all together. But it wouldn't, that doesn't take more than 1 or 2 meetings at the most to do that. What do we have next? Then we have the representative to WEF, and so that Mr. Turner is currently our WEF representative.
So the Wilmington Educational Foundation is a fantastic group that raises funds for non-budgeted grants to teachers for different programs, particularly technology. And so I attend their meetings once a month. And certainly I do not vote on their decision process to grant certain things or others, but it's very good to hear them and try and support their work.
Great. Next up is the Wellness Advisory Committee, school committee representative for that committee. Currently, Ms. Burns and I were the representatives to the Wellness Committee. This committee generally meets in the afternoon 4 times a year during the school year, and headed by Rebecca Brown, who's our coordinator of health services, and usually often it's like our nutrition director, food services director, Mary Palin is there, and just kind of has a discussion from a bunch of different leaders around WPS, including often a student representative, about different issues of health and wellness in the school system. After that, we have the CPAC. So this, again, is not really a subcommittee, but just a school committee representative. So CPAC is our Special Education Parent Advisory Council, which all districts are required to have. And so currently, I'm the representative to that. So I both report school committee-related issues of special education to CPAC, and then potentially bring back any important information from the CPAC meeting to the larger committee as a subcommittee report. Executive session minutes doesn't really need to be discussed. Legislative representatives, so those were Ms. Burns and Dr. Mercaldi, and perhaps you can speak a little bit about some of what that entailed.
Yeah, sure.
As our legislative.
Yeah, so what we did last year was if there were some certain issues that required more discussion at the state level, we actually met with Senator Feingold a couple times and kind of talked about some of those items and everything like that. I do think this one could use probably a little bit of a refocus and everything, and I think we can do more with it, to be honest. So whoever decides to do that next year, I'd be happy to share my thoughts with you about that. So, but I think it's a good it's a good committee where we can engage our state representation, and a lot of it kind of revolves around like the special ed funding, like circuit breaker funding, because that's where we get a lot of direct state aid as well.
Great, thank you. Then we have the School Committee Handbook and Protocol Subcommittee, and that is currently Ms. Burns and Dr. Bryson and Mr. Samaha. So a lot of action happening.
No, not,
School Committee Handbook.
yeah, I don't like, I hope he doesn't call on me. Ms. Burns typically sort of spearheaded that committee, and so it's really keeping things updated. But we haven't met, we haven't met in quite some time, at least for this,
I don't think we,
at least for this year, so.
yeah, I don't remember.
Which isn't a bad thing. It may just mean that the handbook hasn't needed to be revised. So we'll take a look, whatever the new committee, that should be the first thing they do, take a look at it, see if anything needs to come back. Sometimes it doesn't need to be revised, so
Yeah.
it's pretty much, I would say, tends to be an end of the year type activity as we prepare for next year. Not many meetings.
And that's, yeah, usually only like one or two meetings
One or two
probably to
meetings,
actually.
yeah. I think the person running it
review.
tends to do a little bit more like wordsmithing and revising, and then we just sort of come together to discuss and approve.
Then we have a school committee representative to the Town Hall School Administration Building Project, which is currently Mr. Fennelly and Mr. Turner.
And Dr. Brand and Mr. Ruggiero have attended quite frequently as well. A lot of it was focused on sort of the lead up to and planning for the construction of the new town hall school admin building. And now, as we break ground, next week, I think, right?
Yes.
We'll continue to sort of monitor the developments and make sure that the work is progressing as it should, but it's the permanent building committee, school representatives, as a member of the select board on there, so it's a good group of town folks, so.
About once a month.
Yeah, about
typically.
once a month. It was once a month when we were meeting regularly, and then it fell off a little bit, but I think it's getting ready to ramp back up, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Next is the MSBA Wildwood School Building Committee, of which I am the school committee representative. And the school building committee meets monthly and is currently in the process, as we'll see a little bit later as part of the superintendent's report, of shepherding the district through the MSBA process to hopefully in a few years have a new elementary school on the north side of town. Then we have the School Committee Family Communications / Relations Subgroup, which is Dr. Bryson and Mr. Samaha. I feel like the two of you are on a lot of committees together.
We are.
Seem that way.
We work so
We-
well
it's a good team, a
together.
good team.
We plan that out.
Well, it's funny, because I actually feel like there's some overlap between this one and equity.
There
Even
is.
people we meet with, there tends to be some back and forth here, so it works out nicely. This is a committee meant to just strengthen the relationship between us and the community and the school district and the community and families. It could use a little refocusing, I think, as we move
I agree.
into next year. Or just a new look to think about how we might like to do it. There's been lots of ideas floated. Informal coffee hours. We've had pause representatives come into our meetings and talk to us and done some work, not this year in particular, but last year, and kind of helping to navigate some of their info sessions. And so I think that it could definitely be something that could have a fresh set of eyes. And you want me to move into equity? Actually, I
Yeah,
won't
and
move in.
then,
Yeah.
and then Equity Subcommittee, which currently is Mr. Samaha, Dr. Bryson, and Mr. Turner.
Yeah, I mean, we've, the equity subcommittee, I mean, the basic purpose is just to ensure that the district is doing all the things that we can to ensure that, we get equitable outcomes for staff, and that we're thinking in terms of budget, and we're thinking in terms of policy, and make recommendations to the committee, to the full committee, based on what we think the needs are. And those meetings tend to be there's a couple times a year. Try to.
Before, like tonight.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
we had
generally
we had
before.
a meeting tonight. So I think typically over the past couple of years, it's been like 4 or 5 a year, something like that.
All right, and then we have the Finance and Budget Subcommittee, which is Dr. Bryson, Mr. Turner, and Dr. McCauley.
So this group was created, actually last year was the first year of that, and the intention of that is to work with Mr. Ruggiero and the administration to really work as well as we can with the town, particularly the finance committee there, and in some ways create a enhanced connection and provide, you know, more advanced communication to them so that we can head off questions and concerns they might have. So.
Great. All right. And they're not listed here, but we will also have to create some bargaining subcommittees because we're going to have some contracts that are coming up for collective bargaining in this new year. So we're not going to assign those next week at the reorganization. We'll wait till we're closer to actually needing to form them before we create those committees and decide who's going to sit on the bargaining committees for the bargaining team. Last thing I want to mention about before we depart from this is just that there is a maximum of 3 school committee members on any subcommittee. Any more than that would create a quorum, and suddenly it's not a subcommittee anymore. Now you're dealing with a full committee meeting with a quorum of the school committee. Subcommittee meetings are also public meetings, and so they are publicly posted, and the public is able to attend them if they wish. They're posted on the town's website, just as regular school committee meetings are. Are there any other questions or comments that anyone wants to make on this? All right, so everyone think about what committees you're interested in being on, and on the 22nd, we'll fight over them.
That's one word for it.
All right, item 7, approval of items by consensus. So I think we can do most of this all together, but I do want to pull out the field trip to Greece because we definitely want to hear specifically about that. And so, so we'll just jump right into that.
I did the clicker. Okay. Hi, I'm Tejasvi Narayan. I teach math at the high school.
And I'm Kira McDermott. I also teach math at the high school.
Very excited to be here.
Yeah, so we are proposing a trip to Greece next year. We'll get further into the dates and itinerary. We can see that. Yeah, so we'll try to run through this pretty quickly. We got a lot of slides on here. A lot of it was provided from our travel coordinator, so we might skip through some stuff pretty quickly, but take it away.
So, we just want to give students another opportunity to explore the world, connect what they're learning in the classroom with the outside world. Our students learn a lot about Greek history starting in the middle school with ancient Greece, and they connect a lot with that in the English room as well, with the Odyssey and talking about Greek mythology, Greek culture. Even in our math classes, she teaches geometry. They do a lot of Pythagorean theorem, all that stuff, and for science as well. So there's a lot of interdisciplinary connections that we can make while on the trip with our guided tours and whatnot.
So just a quick overview of the places we'll be hitting. So we'll land in Athens and do kind of a loop and land back in Athens at the end and fly home. So it gets more into specifics. So we'll head to Cape Sunion, make some stops along the way to Olympia so it's very Greek mythology based, Temple of Poseidon, Museum of Olympia, archaeological sites. We land in Delphi, and then we travel through Delphi a little bit, Temple of Apollo, Delphi Archaeological Museum, and then we circle back to Athens, and then our last couple days in Athens, that's when we do the Acropolis, the Plaka District, and we really get to see the city there.
We've told our students that this is our travel window. We're doing a 9-day tour, but our earliest departure would be the day after school ends with snow days, and latest return would be July 8th. But we will get more information as we get closer to it. It covers all of the airfare, the hotels, breakfast and dinner. There's a 24/7 tour director with us. It covers all of our tours, our guided sightseeings, our entrances, transportation, all of that. The only thing students and families would be responsible for are passports, We ask for a little bit of money before we leave for Greece, just for tipping the bus drivers and the tour directors. They would have to provide snacks and extra cost souvenirs, anything like that. That's what students would have to provide.
So we're doing this through EF, and they have some good safety protocols in place. So they have a safety partner. You can go to the next slide, and it'll give some more details. So they have people on the ground in all of the countries that they have programs to, and then they have 24/7 support lines that we can access, our travel coordinators can access, and families can also access. So they have phone numbers and emails and things like that if there was any worry
Issues.
that there was something going on.
Yeah.
And then just a quick overview of ways that they can use these to support themselves, the students to support themselves academically. So they can sign up for a college credit course, or get college essay help, or even apply for high school credits after this trip. And just a couple of things that it touches upon on the trip. You know, they're gonna gain more global perspective, and they're gonna embrace their new challenges and learn more about themselves along the way. So this is gonna be our group. We have the group leaders, that's us. We'll have our tour director, and then we have our support team that's at EF that helps us plan the whole trip. Based in terms of what the school is gonna be protected from, there's general liability insurance. We also have some flexibility to change tours if needed. It gets a little more into that later in the slides. Adult travelers over 20 are all background checked. The peace of mind, that's the big thing. That gives us the opportunity prior to 45 days that we leave to change the itinerary dates or location if needed, with no extra fees incurred. And then COVID is always a worry, so there is a COVID care promise that things would be communicated with families. They could get access to healthcare, things like that while they're gone. So, like I said, the Peace of Mind program is for the whole group if we needed to change our itinerary entirely. And then for each individual traveler, they are required to sign up for the Global Travel Protection, which just individually gives them some insurance from a third party that allows them to cancel for predefined reasons and things like that. They can also sign up for the Plus, which is a little bit extra money, but then they can cancel for any reason up to 24 hours before we leave.
Yep, so about everything we get, we just talked about, itinerary, what's included. They have some awesome payment plans that we can talk about later. And the high school, college, sorry, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I didn't know
this
a transition slide.
Sorry, all right. So the price right now is about $4,000, and that's the early enrollment, so that would be before the deadline is May 24th for students to sign up with that fee. And they can split the payments up
Right.
into bi-weekly or monthly, and that would be over the course of 14 months. And that includes the $95 enrollment fee, so they can choose how to break up those payments if they choose, or they can pay in full. I think that's, about, payment. So students have a couple of options to fundraise or apply for scholarships. So EF has their own scholarship program. It's called Global Citizen Scholarship. It's need and merit based, so they would just have to apply for that before November 13th. And then on top of that, every traveler who enrolls on the trip would get like their own link that they can share with family, friends, social media, and anyone can contribute to the costs of their trip.
So that's what we
That's what
had
we
for
have.
the presentation. If you guys have any questions,
All right.
specifics.
Questions? Mr. Turner?
Yeah, I do. So one question about the dates and how much control we have as opposed to first of all, love the idea of Greece. I love the travel program in general. I think it's fantastic to give children the opportunity. I have a student who is very excited about Ireland coming up soon. So
We're excited to take her.
I can appreciate this in a lot of ways. The date range, if we end up at the end of their date range, and if we don't have any snow days, that would be 17 days from the end of school till the start of the trip, which seems like a really big span, especially kids get out of the mind of school and all those sorts of things. Is the date range window entirely their purview, or do we have any influence as to whether or not it could be towards the earlier range?
So if I might have to go back a little bit, but so we have requested dates that are in the middle.
Yeah.
So ideally, we requested the 27th to the 5th. The reason for that being that we have to allow a 3-day window before and after where they're allowed to shift those dates. We don't have much control within those dates what they can do. They try to keep it within our requested dates as well as they can. Hopefully it would be moved earlier, like the Ireland trip ended up getting moved earlier 3 days.
Yeah.
But like July 8th is the absolute latest we would get home, but we don't have much say beyond that, beyond our requested dates.
Yeah, our when we requested it as well, like just the June 24th, we didn't want to worry about finals, like, so
Oh,
that
yeah.
was the biggest concern for us.
Yeah, guaranteed leaving after school
Yeah.
was our most important.
Yeah.
I caught that it was after the 23rd, which is the last possible day.
Yeah.
If our superintendent chooses to enact 5 snow days.
5 days.
So 2 other things, and I apologize.
okay.
I know that they've got the 45-day window for cancellation. Greece happens to be really proximate to the Syrian civil war, Israel in Gaza, and Israel with Hezbollah on the Lebanese border. There's a lot of conflict in that area. This is a large group of tourists traveling through Greece. I have a security concern about how, and I don't know, they don't go into this sort of detail here, but when you're in the place, from a safety perspective, I do have a level of concern.
Yeah, so the global travel protection that they get as part of the program does include insurance that would have to do with evacuation for civil unrest and things like that. The 45-day window also does not apply to a level 4 travel advisory. If there's a level 4 travel advisory within the 45-day window, we are allowed to move our trip dates or location as long as it is within I talked to the travel coordinator today, she didn't know the exact amount, $200 to $300 price range of what we already have for our current trip, then it would be no extra fees to just pick up our trip and move it somewhere else. So if we are there and something occurs, we have options to evacuate that will be covered, and if something does occur within that 45-day window that it would be too severe to travel, we do have options to move it.
Okay, thank you, that's very good to hear. And then the last one is a request I've made when we were talking a couple weeks ago with another trip, Galapagos Islands even. I love the trips. They all happen to be consistently in the same sort of price range. And so I asked then, and I'm asking again tonight, and I'll ask again the next time, to think first of all, one step back. I really appreciate all the time and effort any teacher puts into these sorts of trips. It's a phenomenal amount of effort, and I don't ever want to not mention that. But it's not accessible to everyone. And so, and obviously, you can't travel to Greece for 1 day and pay 1/8 of the cost. So can we do things that are more local? Can we do things that are shorter? Can we do things that are ways to bring pieces of this to other students to get it? Because a lot of times it's the same kids will go 2 years in a row. And so if we're getting, 60 kids out of the entire student body, that's 10%. And so this is not for you tonight, but just as you're discussing it with Mr. Gendron and the administration, what else can we be doing and amongst the teachers to try and help broaden the reach of these programs, because they are fantastic, but they're a little limited.
We were talking to the history department today about this, and I think they are looking into doing some sort of domestic trips in the future. New York, DC, history based. So I think that's in the future that will be coming.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Other comments or questions? Mr. Smaha.
Yeah, again, and I think I raised this as well with the Ireland trip, is it says that this trip is open to 11th and 12th graders, and for 12th graders, it's post-graduation. I'm just curious, I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens.
In Ireland.
The Ireland,
Yeah.
a trip, I have 2 of my seniors are graduates will be there. So I guess I'm just thinking, about, what does that mean when we have, students who have already graduated but are still part of this, and even with this trip being so far away from their, a good month away, a month after their graduation, I'm just curious what
what to hold over them.
Yeah, like if something like if something like, you know, if something goes wrong, I'm just trying to imagine all of the different scenarios, and I just feel like mentioning it.
Yeah, so this was certainly a concern for the Ireland trip that's been discussed. We're both chaperones for that trip as well, and I went on the Germany trip with Mike last year. So I did discuss with Mike Maloney about, you know, are we worried about seniors going on this trip after school ends, graduation is over, sports are over? We are aware of that, but his take on it, and I think the same take for Greece, is that in terms of the travel group that we're going with, the expectations we set are the expectations that the kids are supposed to follow, and EF can enact consequences, contacting colleges, contacting employers and things like that, and saying, you know, even though it was legal there, they were on a school-sponsored trip, this was not supposed to be occurring, you should know about this. So just, I think, at least expressing that to the students will go a big way in saying, you know, this is not a free-for-all. There are still things that we can do if you decide not to, you know, obey the expectations that we've set for you on this trip.
Dr. Bryson?
My question is not similar, but also related to the grading. So I'll have a rising junior. Are there any possibilities of potentially including rising juniors if it weren't to fill up with the 11th and 12th graders?
Oh, you mean rising sophomore?
Will he be going into junior year?
So there, it's open to.
But he won't be, so if this is 11th and 12th, he'll be,
It's open for current sophomores and juniors.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah.
current freshman,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
So for the current freshman class,
Yes.
who will be entering into their junior year, right? They'll be finished with sophomore year.
Yeah.
If it were not to fill up with the 11th and 12th graders, would it be open to younger kids, or is that sort of like I'm not sure if we'd have, some of our trips have been open to younger kids.
Yeah. So the
right?
Galapagos
Galapagos
Island
is, yep.
is open to
Yeah.
everybody. It's certainly a discussion that we would have. Our plan for this trip, no question, was to bring one bus of kids. Germany was 2 buses, and it was
A lot.
crazy. And because this is the first trip we're planning, we were saying 1 bus, which is about 43 kids and 7 chaperones. Our parent interest meeting next week, we currently have 64 families RSVP'd. So that we don't anticipate that we will need to expand, but that would definitely be a conversation we'd be willing to have if we got, say, 20 kids and we wanted to open it up to 40.
Yeah.
Well, these end of the year trips was for those who play sports, the only ones they can do
Yeah.
are after school ends. They can't do the February or April, so it
Well,
becomes
we're hoping to keep
complicated.
doing them, so.
I know, I'm excited. There's so many of these, so it's
Yeah.
exciting. Thank you for doing this. We appreciate it.
Mr. Golden?
Hi, I just have some brief points. Well, first of all, my wife and I on our honeymoon actually did an EF trip, so I can speak to, I know you've done multiple now, I've gathered that, but clearly they are very good. So, but I hope when the students are in Greece, you know, obviously when Americans tend to go abroad, we tend to embrace places relation strictly to our textbooks, but I think as EF, as the slides emphasized, there's so much more to learn, especially like the contemporary nature of a place and its culture and its recent history. So I hope that the students get a chance to kind of like hear the hubbub and what's going on and relate to Greece, my goodness, who might be their own age even. So if that could be somehow woven in, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, they offer some optional excursions that we are opting out of, the main reason being that they would not have the opportunity to explore Athens on their own at the end of the trip if we were to do that.
Yep.
And I think having the time for those kids to be out on their own for a little bit and explore the city and get to know it as it is now is pretty crucial. So we made sure to include that in.
Awesome, thanks.
If there's more interest in the trip than it right now can accommodate, how do you anticipate filling the slots?
If there's more interest than can accommodate?
Right.
Well, I think for the Ireland trip, there was a wait list, so I think at first we would start there, and then if it's double, we are really hoping that it's 1 bus.
Yeah, I mean,
We're really hopeful that it's 1 bus.
I think it'll be sort of a first come, first serve sort of deal. They can enroll by the 24th to get that early enrollment deadline, and then we would go with the wait list after that. And then if we really did have that much interest for 2 buses, we can have a
would
conversation
think about it.
But right now it would probably just be a wait list and see if people change their mind about, change plans or anything like that to add more kids on.
I just had a couple of comments, and thank you for being here. There's some good points raised. I think, first off, from the financial standpoint, I raised this before, Mr. Gender and I haven't talked at great length, but it's clear that there's a great appetite for travel, and there's a lot of support and a lot of leadership, and so thank you and your colleagues for doing this, planning farther out for families to get and students to get a clear sense of what might be on the horizon. I think we're at that place, to me. I don't think it necessarily, but it certainly could be, always something from a policy standpoint the committee could consider. The advantages of that, of course, would be to also smooth out the payments over more months, or fundraising opportunities over more months. I understand the concern around the end of the year travel. Of course, there's always which is not the approach you want to take, but the parachute approach that would be for any trip, and that is if a student crossed the line, he or she is always returned back home, and at the family's cost. That's a worst case scenario, but it sits there. But the tension you made, Dr. Bryson, around sort of in season or in school year travel for students who are heavily involved in AP courses, that's not great. Sports, that's not great. So there is this some tension there. But I think we're in a good place with this, and the benefits are clear. Having a longer term view, I think, would be in our best interest to think about, so that people can plan. And it would also afford you folks or your colleagues the ability to control who's going on these trips. Might open up more spots, so that if somebody's already engaged in an international trip and they're right there at the doorstep again to go again, there's an opportunity to open that up for other students too. So you might want to think about that. But thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, so I would look for a motion to approve the Grease trip. Motion by Mr. Fennelly, second by Dr. Bryson. All in favor? All right, and that is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to do a couple of individual items here. I anticipate we may have some abstentions coming in. So let's look at we have minutes of April 24th, 2024, our last regular session meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Turner, second by Mr. Samaha. All in favor? And that is 5 in favor with Mr. Marcaldi, Dr. Marcaldi, and Mr. Golden abstaining.
Correct.
I'm assuming you're abstaining, not voting against.
Yes, that's abstention, yes, thank you.
You've gone through everything there. Minutes are a lie. All right, next we have the WPS Choral and Theater Arts Support donation request to the Lamplighters Drama Guild for $5,000. If you were at town meeting, then you may have noticed them selling baked goods for the entire 7.5 hours that we were there. They carried on to the end, and it was quite a thing. So welcome,
God.
Mrs. Hall and Mrs. Prindiville.
Very tasty treats.
As David said, my name's Julie Hall. I'm here tonight representing the Wilmington Public Schools Choral and Theater Support Group. We go by CATS for short. I have our elected next president, Jen Saragosa, here. Obviously Sam, the artistic director, as well as our tech director, Tom Hall, our choreographer, Marina Chan, and our crew supervisor, Tejasvina Ryan. So we've got a great team. Everyone's here to support us all together. I also serve as the producer for both the Lamplighters and the Middle School Drama Club, and have for a few years now. For those unfamiliar with us, we're an independent booster group of parents and guardians committed to providing financial and volunteer support for the drama and chorus and a cappella groups here in Wilmington. So you already heard from the Wilmingtons tonight. I want to focus a little bit on our drama program and some of the accomplishments that we've made this year. And I'll tell you a little bit more about CATS first. We do plan and execute numerous fundraising activities throughout the year. Obviously, the bake sale was one. We do the fall festival fundraiser and a few outside events, parent night out, band events, and things like that. But we also sell concessions and novelty items and raffle tickets and things at all of our shows. And we are committed to investing 100% of the funds that we raise back into the programs that we support, particularly in the drama program. Every penny that comes in at the shows goes right back into the drama program. So we use that to pay for set supplies or workshops. We did a fight scene workshop this year. We did an improv workshop. We purchased software to give us more ability to do projections and animations and better sound effects and things like that. So the school account covers the needs of the program, the basics, and then CAT steps in and fills in all the holes for items that we can't purchase quickly through the purchase order system that we need in time for the show, or just sort of big time wants for the program, like the software and things like that. We bought, a first aid kit and random things that aren't necessarily coming from the school. And we just take requests from the drama advisor, the chorus directors, and the a cappella group and try to help them out with whatever we can. We provide scholarships for students attending outside events like the Great East Festival next week. We're helping out some of the chorus kids. We're providing the end of year banquets for all the kids, helping the chorus kids go play laser tag for the end of the year and things like that. So this year, the drama program began with the one-act play That Goes Wrong. It was a hilarious show. We really enjoyed that one. Up next was our middle school production of The Little Mermaid Junior, which was our most successful show to date. We actually sold out the Joanne Benton Auditorium for the first time in Drama Club history, which was a really big deal for all of us. Part of the reason that show was so successful is thanks to the cooperation of the administrators at both the middle school and the high school, who worked with us and the transportation department to make sure that all the kids could take the bus from the middle school to the high school for rehearsals, thanks to the aligned end times. So that worked out really well for us. It also enabled us to include middle school students in our high school show this year because they could easily just hop on the bus to go to rehearsals. So that was a big help to the program for sure. The auditorium here at the high school has a 45% larger capacity than the middle school, and as I said, we were able to sell out all 708 seats for our final show, which was a really big deal for us. Our high school spring musical, Newsies, was also tremendously successful, breaking the record that we set last year with School of Rock on ticket sales in just 3 shows instead of 4. So we had wonderful community support there. And again, we had 22 middle school students involved in the show in addition to the 26 high schoolers. So it was a great way to bridge that gap between the schools, give the younger kids a chance to see all that the high school has to offer, so we can hopefully lure them in to Lamplighters when they come up to 8th grade. And it gave the older kids some good mentorship opportunities. It was really a nice experience for everybody. Also, that show, for those of you who didn't see it, featured our assistant principal, Mr. Jonathan Miranda, playing Teddy Roosevelt, which was a huge deal for him and for the kids. We all loved having him there with us at rehearsals. It was really, really fun. And thanks to the generosity of our theater-going community and everyone who purchased concessions and raffle tickets and novelty items, as well as all the local businesses who graciously sponsored us by purchasing ads in the program, we raised record levels of funds this year. Last year, we were able to donate $5,000 to Lamplighters at the end of the year, and we would like to do the same thing this year. We've already invested $15,700 into the drama program alone this year, purchasing things that they needed to help support the program. And we're here tonight with the support of Mr. Gendron to request your approval of an additional donation. As I said, the school covers some of the basic needs, and since we have an excess in CATS this year, we don't want to keep it all in our account. We put it right into the student activities account so it can be used to help pay for licensing fees and musicians and some of the basic needs of the program. Lamplighters will be performing 2 very, very exciting musicals this year, and they are pricey, so we're happy that we
Not
can
as
help.
bad as I originally thought. my proposed budget and the actual income is not too bad. So,
Yeah. So we're glad that we're able to help with that so that we can put on some really, really exciting shows. We're very, very much looking forward to them. The CATS volunteers and the drama program production team look forward to continuing our collaboration, working with the administration and with each other to give all the kids the opportunities to develop lifelong friendships and build their confidence and showcase their talents on the stage. Does anybody have any questions for us?
Any comments? Thank you so much.
Would you
for-
like to accept our?
I'll make a motion.
For a motion to accept?
Yes.
Kat's donation. Motion by Mr. Turner, second by Mr. Fennelly. All in favor? And that is unanimous with somehow 8 votes.
And thank you all for all of your support.
Yes,
I know we
thank
saw a
you.
lot of you in the
Yeah.
audiences at our shows this year, and we
Thank
really
you, thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we're gonna run through the rest of this in one shot. So looking for a motion to approve following warrants: grants 28 through 31, revolving 56 through 59, local 90 through 95, food service 60 and 61, circuit breaker 26 through 28, special education 53 through 57, and payroll for May 8th, 2024. In addition, the acceptance of policies H, HA, HF, DD, IB, IC/ICA, ID, and policy FCB. We have a motion to approve. Motion by Dr. Bryson, second by Mr. Samaha. All in favor? And that is unanimous. And that disposes of the consent agenda, and that brings us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Brand.
Thanks very much. Good evening. There are 2 items, both related, and that is to the MSBA program. A lot of activity as of late, as many of you are aware. Things are moving forward fairly rapidly into what I sort of would suggest are the final 2 phases of this program. Most recently, as I think you know, the Wildwood School Building Committee took action at the end of April to narrow the number of options down to 5. We'll talk about those in just well, the video will in a moment. But so we're in this sort of the first of the final 2 phases, I would suggest. And these are my words, not MSBA's. But this first phase that we're in right now is now working from the short list of options between this point in time and the end of August, in which that short list has to get narrowed to 1, the preferred choice. So there is an awful lot of work ahead of the members of the school building committee, our design team, Doran Whittier and SMMA, to get us from where we're at right now. We are well aware that we're going into the summer months. We've discussed at length around how we can try and capture and engage, especially through remote meeting access for those in the community that are following. Also talk about the next community forum that will be planned in August. We have no ability to control the timeline, so unfortunately, it is what it is. We have a deliverable that we have to put forth to the MSBA at the end of August, and that date really can't change. We'll meet that deadline, but that's the phase. The second phase is really from, call it September 1st, when school starts again. The community will have before it 1 final option, and we will be pressing hard towards town meeting to try and educate and inform the citizens of the community to try and hopefully get behind and support whatever that option is. We recognize that this project is one of many that is competing for people's attention and time, and there's only so much bandwidth that everyone has to go around. Everyone is very busy. We realize, though, that the media our media campaign, our public relations campaign, has to be really geared up to try and gather people's attention. And we came to learn about a video approach that some other communities have used for the same kind of project. The members of the leadership team, explored this with the gentleman, and he put together the video that we debuted at town meeting this past Saturday, and would like to do so. I know committee members have seen it, but it just seems like an opportune time for those members who are watching this meeting tonight to watch this video. It really tells the story from where we began to this point in time. And so it's an 8-minute or so short story that will allow anyone who's entering into this conversation, this story, to get a full sense of where this project's at. So with that, if we could roll tape.
You may have heard that Wilmington Public Schools is exploring the renovation, addition, or replacement of the Wildwood Early Childhood Center in partnership with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or MSBA. The MSBA process is like a marathon. It takes persistence, endurance, and a dedicated program that takes years to achieve. This short video summarizes the first leg of this marathon, which started in 2020. We'll show the opportunity Wilmington has to secure tens of millions of dollars in MSBA funding for the project, detail the physical need for a renovation, addition, or replacement of Wildwood, how Wilmington's educational plan for our students demonstrates a need for a school construction project to move our strategic objectives forward, and provide a timeline of the MSBA process. The town of Wilmington and our school district have a rare opportunity to fund a Wildwood construction project in partnership with the MSBA. It's a state agency that helps local school districts pay for the design and construction of schools. It's competitive and needs-based. When Wildwood Elementary was accepted into the program in 2021, it was one of only 15 projects selected, a 21% acceptance rate among 71 projects across the Commonwealth who applied in that round. The work is tough, but the payoff is significant. By completing the MSBA Marathon, Wilmington will unlock tens of millions of dollars in grants that won't come out of our local property tax assessments. One factor MSBA considers is the facility needs of the entire district. How many buildings might get addressed at once? And when the MSBA accepted Wildwood into the process, it presented our town with an opportunity to explore consolidating one or more schools into the Wildwood project, which would reduce costs and our aging elementary schools. This opportunity created a long list of potential scenarios, like whether to choose renovation, addition, or replacement of Wildwood to update the Early Childhood Center for 130 kindergartners and approximately 100 pre-K students, or to consolidate it with Woburn Street School to create a single pre-K through 3 school for 510 students plus the same number of pre-K students, or to consolidate it with Woburn Street School and North Intermediate School to create a single pre-K through 5 school for 755 students along with those pre-K students. The Wildwood School Building Committee, a group of volunteers that include parents, school staff, and elected officials, conducted a feasibility study. Its due diligence on this long list of scenarios, including which site might provide the best conditions to complete the project, and the estimated costs of each possible solution. The town of Wilmington and Wilmington Public Schools pursued MSBA funding for a Wildwood construction project because each of its 6 elementary schools are approaching the end of their useful lives. 5 of these buildings were built before 1965, each now in their 7th decade of service. Shawsheen Elementary, the youngest, was opened in 1970. Wildwood, now unoccupied, is the oldest, built in 1955, the same age as the old Wilmington High School, which was torn down after its replacement in 2015. The Wildwood site and building have significant landscape, drainage, thermal envelope, and systems infrastructure issues that must be addressed. The building is not fully ADA accessible, suffers from 30-plus-year-old roof sections that need to be replaced, and steel windows that make the building inefficient, along with antiquated building infrastructure components like original unit ventilators and outdated light fixtures that would not meet today's building standards. While each of our aging elementary schools are excellently maintained by the town's buildings department, examples from across the Commonwealth demonstrate that buildings of this vintage can experience educational disruptions due to aging facilities. Each school has capacity issues and lack the environments necessary to best meet students' educational needs. None of them have conditioned spaces or fire suppression systems like our new high school. And with each year, each building becomes more expensive to maintain and repair. These are just some of the reasons why in 2018, our town's facilities master plan recommended operating fewer, larger elementary schools. That master plan lays out a town-wide building strategy, some of which our community already enjoys, like in the new high school. The Wildwood project's acceptance into MSBA makes it the next opportunity. The town of Wilmington and our public schools partnered with the MSBA for partial funding for the Wildwood project to meet our educational goals. It's one piece of a whole, a strategic goal to provide a next-generation education to all of our students. School construction contributes to those goals, as we can see through our new high school for our oldest learners. And we believe the design of a school construction project should be integrated with our goals for our youngest learners as well. This includes design considerations like larger classrooms with more breakout space for children in the same grade to collaborate in communities, natural light and conditioned spaces for mental well-being and physical comfort, larger, more flexible space that educational planners couldn't imagine in the 1950s for things like project-based learning and STEM education. Purposefully designed special education space to provide the support and education for all learners to be among their peers. And space to serve our multi-tiered system of supports to provide each student the right supports at the right time. By also evaluating whether to consolidate Woburn Street School and North Intermediate School into the project, we also may address another educational goal, reducing transitions. For our youngest learners, they'll transition between 4 schools before entering high school. These transitions disrupt continuity, a demonstrated driver of student outcomes in education. They also present logistical challenges for our families who face the prospect of having children at multiple schools more often than they would with larger elementary schools. And they increase daily transitions for our educational support staff who could spend more time on instruction and student learning in one place. The first leg of the MSBA Marathon began with a statement of interest in 2020. The work by our school building committee started with a preliminary design program where they developed a long list of potential options to address our facilities and educational needs in different ways and at different sites. Using an objective evaluation process, they identified a short list of these alternatives, which they continue to develop, including its cost estimates. The first leg culminates in August 2024, when the school building committee delivers its preferred schematic report, a single recommendation from that list of options that they did their due diligence on. Whether to renovate, add on to, or replace Wildwood, and whether this project should include Woburn Street School, or whether it should include both Woburn Street School and North Intermediate School. If the MSBA authorizes the project to move forward, the project team and its building committee begin the second leg of the MSBA Marathon, schematic design. This is where site plans, building design, and renderings become detailed enough to produce a project scope and budget, with hard numbers on the total cost of the project, as well as determining the portions that would be paid for with MSBA grant money and with local tax dollars. This second leg of the MSBA Marathon concludes with a town meeting vote in spring 2025. If approved at town meeting, the third leg of the marathon includes final design, bidding, and construction of the Wildwood project, with the goal of completion in fall of 2028. We've created several ways for you to engage this process, learn more, and provide feedback to members of our Wildwood School Building Committee. We have volunteer working groups such as communications and sustainability. You can dig into the project details, including cost estimates of the options our project team has evaluated, by visiting the Wildwood project page on the Wilmington Public Schools website. And you can correspond with the building committee and project team through a dedicated email address, wildwoodprojectquestions@wpsk12.com.
Thanks for your patience as we work through that. That's it is a little bit over 8 minutes, but the beautiful thing about how this has been designed is it's actually broken down into 4 different parts or 4 different sections. With the thinking from the gentleman who has a background in news and media that those are more digestible chunks. And so it is with the intention that over the course of the coming weeks, my office will be pushing out these smaller segments to the community to try and engage and inform. We think that this is a good tool and helpful, far better than any presentation we could have given. So we're going to certainly do our best to socialize this. I also want to just spend a couple of minutes in talk a little bit about the final options. Mr. Ingersoll, if you could put that slide up. So as I mentioned, the short list has been decided upon. Again, the decision-making authority in this project is the Wildwood School Building Committee. The short list has been narrowed down to 5. This is a graphic that we have now made up into posters, and you saw it on the video as well too. To just quickly walk through the 5 options as they stand right now. There are 2 that consider focus just on the Wildwood, which includes a Wildwood renovation only. I realize that I've heard this from some of the community, are questioning why we would even do that. We actually have to. The MSBA requires this project to focus specifically on generating a cost just to renovate the existing Wildwood. The other pre-K to K option is new construction at the Wildwood site. So if we were to go with one of those options, of course, that would mean that there would be no work, no improvements done at all with this project to the Woburn Street or to the North Intermediate School. The third option is the consideration of consolidation, but consolidating the Wildwood and Woburn Street only. That would result in a pre-K to 3 school. And the specific option here that's being focused on after a lot of consideration and location would be to build a new building at the Woburn Street site. The 4th and 5th grade option also include consolidation, but they combine the Wildwood, the Woburn, and the North into what would become a pre-K to 5 option. There are 2 renditions or 2 possibilities here of this. One is an addition and renovation of the existing North School, of course, at the North site, and the other would be brand-new construction at the North site. One of the things that I think is very helpful for our community in this project is that for any of these new school building options, pre-K to 5 at the North or pre-K to 3 at the Woburn Street, and of course that would also hold true for pre-K and K at the Wildwood, is that all of the functioning or operating schools can continue to operate. And that new school construction can take place in a manner that doesn't impact the operation of the existing buildings. That's not true, of course, for the addition and renovation option. I can tell you from my own personal knowledge and experience, a lot of communities can't always say that this is their reality, and you have to talk about construction taking place in phases, tearing down a building and doing it. That extends the time and certainly leads to a lot more interruption for teaching and learning and access and so on to the site. So these are the 5 options. A lot more due diligence will happen in the coming weeks and the coming months in terms of how much do these actually cost, how big will these buildings be, how closely are they meeting our educational needs that were identified through the educational visioning process, through community input at the beginning of the project. So there's an awful lot of work still to come. This is not just a single meeting that final decision will be made. Speaking of that, again, on this graphic, you can see the timeline where we're at right now. And we are now obviously past April with a short list of options making their way, as I mentioned earlier, to one single option will be approved in August. Following that decision, again, over the course of the fall and winter and early spring of next school year, that will be the time period in which we really have to obviously garner community support for whatever project this will be. So let me pause there. I'm not sure if there are any questions, but it was really just an opportunity to bring up to speed the committee. And again, those that are watching at home that may not have been in town meeting on Saturday.
Dr. McCaldy.
Thank you. I really liked the video. I thought it explained everything really well, so it was nice. Second time seeing it too, because you showed it at town meeting, which was, I think, also a really great venue to show it to, because it got the broader community. I have 2 questions, but they're kind of related, so I'll just kind of piggyback them. And it's kind of related to my experience at town meeting this past week, right? So as Chairman Ragsdale said it was a 7.5-hour meeting, right? And if you looked around the room, there weren't a lot of people there that, were probably of age that had school-age children. I know the CARES offered some support. I don't think a lot of people took them up on that offer and everything. And what's a challenge, I think, is when we get turnout to vote is going to be that many families may be eager to vote, but only one parent can show up. So you have a household that has 2 voters and only one can show up because one's got to stay home with kids that might have to sit in this town meeting for 7.5, 8 hours, right? Even with CARES, that's a long day for a child, right? So, and following on with that, a lot of voters I think that'd be very interested in this are going to be ones that have kids but are not even in school yet, because this will more directly affect them. Like, my kids will never go to this school, right? So I don't know if there can be a way that the town or the district could maybe offer care for the younger kids as well too. And my final part is, does this need to come up at a full town meeting, or could this be at a special town meeting where maybe we can get better turnout if it's one evening and one topic, as opposed to, okay, you got to sit here all day and then it gets called at random and we don't know when it's going to come up. I do remember at town meeting, a gentleman stood up, was like, hey, we're all here for the zoning. And, the moderator said, like, sorry, I can't do that. So long-winded question, a lot of sub-questions there. But, yeah.
I certainly, Paul, jump in here if I miss something, but I'll start with the last question in terms of the special town meeting, or it being the vote being a part of the overall town meeting. I believe that right now this is a sort of a placeholder, a broad identification of the time period in general in which this vote might be held. But there has been some discussion with our OPM, and of which it's hard to, I'm not educated enough or informed enough to know some of the nuances with the timing of the MSBA, the application. There's a lot of red tape that sort of surrounds the kind of project. And can you speak any more to that? I mean, we've talked only broadly about this, but there is a possibility that the vote could also be shifted to the fall of 25, right?
Yeah, I think MSBA guidelines, that there's a window we have for this vote, and I don't know how far into the fall it goes, or it just goes into the summer. There has been some discussions, and clearly the town has to heavily involved in this, because for calling it a special town meeting is a different animal, and that's something the town would need to do. There's also gonna be, will have to be most likely, depending on the vote, debt exclusion vote, I think it would be. That's kind of what we did in the high school. And the high school was a special town meeting, and I think it was like a December date, if I remember correctly. It depends on how the dates shake out, and like I said, I think there's just a window the MSBA gives you to vote this. So I don't think we can just say, we're gonna wait till mid-fall, mid-October.
Yeah.
I think that falls outside of that date parameter, if you will. So there'll be a lot more discussions with our OPM, our designer, and especially with the town on how we go about this.
So like what the appropriate date may be. So it may not be at town meeting, but there could be a
That's a
special
possibility,
vote
or it might
potentially.
be at the annual town meeting.
Yeah.
In terms of the first part of the question, you know, certainly, you know, we have for the last number of years been fortunate to secure volunteers with our care staff to provide that or offer childcare. I think this year we had 15 or so students. Is that right? Yeah. So we'll continue to do that. You know, it requires some luck in terms of getting someone to step forward and give up their Saturday, and it also, you know, we never seem to have a shortage of high school students who wish to volunteer. They seem to be there, but the opportunity, or the ability to offer that really relies upon those things to fall into place. But I recognize, I understand completely your point, and our target, of course, is as many as we can, including young families with younger kids. So.
Okay.
Dr. Bryson?
I'm just so excited. I think I texted it at the meeting on Saturday. This is just, for those of us who have been watching this for so many, I can't even believe it's been that many years, but from those early phone calls with the select board, and it's just unbelievable that we're in this place and we're actually right there, because I remember when it seemed so far away. So thank you for pushing this forward and for pulling this all together. I think we're in really great shape, and I'm really excited to see what the next year brings us.
I wanted to make a couple of quick comments. I think that Dr. McCauley's points are really excellent ones to think about. You know, as we get closer, we'll have a sense of, are we even ready near the time of the annual town meeting? But I think that all of that reality is, I think that there, especially something like this, that there's a lot of people who are going to have interest in this and will want to be able to vote on it. Even just what we saw for the special town meeting to authorize the feasibility study. We had people lined up out the door who didn't even get into the Shriners in time to participate in the vote. And of course, we don't want that to happen. That's maybe something also for better planning going forward. But there was a lot of interest then. Imagine how much more interest there will be when we're actually looking at a real project in a real building and talking about potentially approving that to go forward. And so everything that makes it easier for people to participate in that process is going to be, to our advantage, but also to the advantage of the community and the town. This is something that should have broad-based public participation and just the widest possible support in order to go forward. Mr. Turner.
And to that point, the single town meeting I've ever been to that had the largest attendance was the vote on this building. So by far, I mean, it's 1,500 to 2,000 people were in attendance that day. And I think to one of your points earlier, Dr. McCauley, one of the things that we have benefited from over the years in this community is those types of votes do get broad support. And so for people who've been in the community for years and they're seniors, they come out and support. And for people who are younger and their children would maybe even not be the first generation through, they come out and support. And so we do get good attendance. And so and the town would certainly want that. So I anticipate it will be a well-organized meeting to get good participation, and I would hope for very good support as well.
One last thing I want to mention about just the short list itself is that just so sort of people also know a little bit of why we have like these options and these types of options. One of the reasons that we have the options right now that we do in the short list is that we are required by the MSBA and the process to have options within each of those 3 grade spans. So we had to advance at least one option from just the pre-KK, one option that was the pre-K to 3, and at least one option from the pre-K to 5. So we had to cover all of those. And then if anyone is wondering, well, why are we looking at both an addition renovation and new construction of the pre-K through 5 at the north? If it's all at the same site, why don't we just pick the best option? This is again a requirement that we have to have in our short list: new construction, add reno, the addition renovation, and just the straight-up renovation of the Wildwood. So the reason that we have that new construction and the addition renovation for the pre-K through 5 is, again, because of MSBA requirements. We needed to have that.
One last thing I'll say, if I can, that in June, before the end of June, we anticipate with whomever the chair is at the time, adding to the agenda an update for the committee on some of the most recent plans that we have coming forth around the educational program planning. That's been taking a fair bit of time over the last few weeks. Dr. Bryson's been and Mr. Turner have been in a few of those meetings. So we do want to bring forth to you an update on that educational plan. That's important because our planners need to have a very clear direction on some of the things that we're talking about. So it won't have to be lengthy, but we want to make sure before we go into summer recess that we provide you with an update on a couple of those things. So we'll talk again in a few weeks about that. That's it for Superintendent's report tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Brand. That brings us to item 9, public comment. Mr. Fennelly.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. One public comment submitted in advance of the meeting that was in our packet. I'm going to guess, given that there's no one in the room, that there is no public comment. So, thank you.
Thank you. And then that brings us to item 10, new business. And the first item of new business is a substitute pay rate adjustment. The committee met in executive session before regular session with the intention of approving an increase in the substitute pay rate. And so we now just need to take action in public session. So I'm looking for a motion to increase the educational assistant and non-certified teacher daily substitute rate to $110 a day, and the teacher daily substitute rate to $120 a day. Motion by Mr. Golden, second by Mr. Smaha. All in favor?
Point of
sorry.
clarification, the effective date would be July 1st, correct? It would be not in this, the effective date would not be tonight. It would be as of the beginning of the
Or
next
is that
school year, correct?
immediately, is that immediately effective?
If we have your support financially, we would be willing to move forward with
To
that.
today. Okay, just wanted to clarify an effective date. Thank you.
Maybe not
All right.
today, but.
But yeah. Tomorrow.
Perhaps next week, but.
Okay, so effective date would be during this school year, not during the next fiscal year.
Well, you have
Wanted
3.5 hours left today to do it.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Substitute administrative assistant superintendent. Take care of that tonight. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? And that is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and that brings us to school committee retreat discussion. I have a little bit of a sense, I think we all know that rejoinder of just like, oh, this meeting could have been an email. And sometimes looking at this, I'm just thinking, could this agenda item have been a doodle poll?
Wow.
So, well, I'm just getting some shade from the right side of the table here.
I think she just made a motion.
Last year, we, over the summer, so the school committee does not generally meet over the summer unless necessary, but we last year tried to hold an extra meeting. Last year, it ended up happening in August. The idea being that over the summer, when we're not actually doing the business of the committee, we have a little more opportunity to reflect on what it is that we're doing. That sort of the idea of a summer retreat or workshop gives us a little more chance to think about how we're doing our work rather than just being so head down in doing the work on a sort of on the regular basis throughout the year. That this gives us a chance to possibly tackle some larger topics that would be hard to cover in regular meetings. And again, to think about how we do our work and if we want to make any changes in how the procedures of the committee work, reflect on, even evaluate our effectiveness and so forth. So this is the point tonight is not to pin down an agenda for that. So we'll kind of pin down what we exactly want to do when we get a little bit closer to the meeting, but essentially just to pick when we're going to do it. So we've narrowed ourselves to a window of time, which, if I remember my dates, were the week of July 8th, so July 8th through the 12th, and also people were free on Monday the 15th. And so I will just, rather than trying to just ask you who likes what date, I will throw out Monday the 8th and see if there are any objections to holding our retreat on Monday the 8th. We might need to talk a little bit more about do people have availability like during the afternoon? I don't think we got into actually that much detail when we polled everyone over email, so I'm not sure if everyone is completely free, or.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I thought we were going away together for a week. I thought we were all going to a cabin, so, I guess an afternoon is much more manageable.
Yeah, Acapulco, we're gonna get the.
Greece.
Mr. Turner.
Greece.
We'll join the Greece trip temporarily.
Yeah.
So just for reference, I know this is where I was thinking on this. Our meeting that last year was before one of our first normal session of the year, and was relatively short.
Mhm.
I came out of that with the perception that when we talked about and thought about some of the things we could talk about in that type of a setting, that there was enough for most of a day. Maybe not 9 to 5, but a multiple hour thing that might not fit into an evening. So that's where I was coming from with this particular thing. I don't know if that's where other people would be, but the presumption would be that it would need to be a good chunk of time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that I could commit to that. Is there anyone who would not be able to do that?
Just to clarify, commit to a whole day?
Well, or at least, or maybe any part of the day. It wouldn't necessarily have to be 8 hours, but that we have flexibility to kind of potentially take that much, much longer than a normal meeting. So we'll say most of the day. All right, so that sounds like we are on. And so we'll have to figure out a few more details. My inclination, and people can think about this, is that last year we had a facilitator, and I don't know, my sense afterwards was I wish that we had maybe had a little more control over the agenda of the meeting than we turned out to have. But that again can be something that we can maybe talk about a little bit. But
A doodle poll.
As a doodle poll. All right, so we will be aiming for block off July 8th on your calendar. I look forward to that. Okay, so that is new business. Then next up is subcommittee reports. So I know we had one subcommittee meeting before.
I was about to add
before the
that
meeting.
thing to my calendar. Yeah, the equity subcommittee met this afternoon, or I guess, I don't know, it's been a long day, before the executive session.
Early evening?
Early evening. And we sort of discussed ways in which we can build some capacity amongst staff for, any issues that come up around equity, in terms of addressing it at the student level, and who are finding ways to help us address any issues that may come up. Anybody want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's okay. Typically, we wait till we do our minutes before we report out on the subcommittee, so I
Yeah, I think that's
to
good.
go back and
Yeah,
look at
I-
our minutes, but no, I think that's.
Okay.
Okay. Any other subcommittees? Okay, I don't believe we have any correspondence tonight. And that leaves us to a long list of
Thank you, Tracy.
dates of activities. A lot of stuff happening as we get to the end of the school year. So on the 9th, which I believe is tomorrow, we have the 6 to 12 Vertical Orchestra Concert at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. On May 10th, Special Olympics. May 14th, we have the middle school and high school chorus at 7 p.m. May 16th, we have the Honors Jazz Band performing on the Common. May 17th, we have the high school orchestra chamber music performing in the courtyard of the high school at 7 p.m. May 20th, the DECA banquet. I can't pronounce the word, banquet at 6:30 p.m. May 21st, we have the National Honor Society ceremony at 7 p.m. May 22nd is our next regular session meeting, 7 p.m. here in this room. May 23rd, the Senior Athletic Awards night, 6
Actually,
p.m.
It's May 30th.
For the
It's not
Senior
23rd,
Athletic
it's
Awards?
they changed it to the 30th.
All right, so late breaking news. You heard it here first.
Which did
The Senior Athletic Awards night have apparently been moved to May 30th.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, maybe I just got.
Come on now. He was on a roll.
I definitely saw that somewhere.
You saw that somewhere?
Definitely didn't make that up.
Just-
I definitely didn't create that. No, I saw something, I want to say what.
Just trying to incept that like into our minds and like just create that.
Email or
date.
Twitter date changed, and I wrote I put it into my phone, so I'm pretty sure.
All right, double check the district calendar on the Senior Athletic Awards night.
I've
We'll
double
get-
checked.
we'll
There's
get-
no, 'cause it's not
We'll
right
get
on
that
there.
sorted out.
Shows up on the 20th.
May 28th, we have the 4th and 5th grade strings concert from both the North and the West, 7 p.m. on the Common. May 31st, we have the Academic Awards and Scholarship Night, 6:30 p.m., Senior Scholarship Night. And on June 2nd, we have graduation at 10:30 a.m. here at the high school. And reaching further into June, June 12th is our next regular session meeting, our first meeting of June. And with that, yes, Dr. Bryson.
Just a reminder that there is a sign-up sheet for some of these end-of-the-year activities. You're aware of that? Okay. And then, so I'll just say, so it's great to have representation of at least a few of us at each of these, and then most or all of us at graduation. Fantastic.
All right, and that brings us to the end of our agenda for the evening, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Dr. Bryson, second by Mr. Samaha. All in favor? And that is unanimous, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.